On this episode of the Coaches Clinic podcast, we are back on the mics, and we got all kinds of topics today, huh, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all are in our own way now coaching some kind of youth sport, and I think it's fun to hear those stories and how those things can actually sharpen your tools as a coach. So you'll enjoy.
Yeah, I enjoyed the conversation of how to build better athletes, how to be a better coach, and I think that anybody can pull something from this episode and find some value.
I like it because we really dove deep into some topics with youth coaching, and then we even kind of like butted heads on a few things today, which is always good for conversation.
Yeah.
I'm trying to win the rec basketball championship. Stay tuned. Let's go to the episode. Coaches Clinic podcast, we are back. You know, here's the thing. Dustin is amazing at ad read. So the next episode, we're putting him on the ad read game, but it's brought to you by Max Everett Muscle and Sam Adams, right? I mean, you're bringing your ad game.
Yeah, so this will be the last Coaches Clinic podcast that you will listen to without a legit ad read to start off.
Yes. We're about to
Just be prepared.
We're about to get serious.
Anticipation.
Our coaching staff, Mike Deegan, Tyler Treadway, Coach Myers. Like I was saying before we got on air, I am new assistant rec basketball coach for high school in Granville. I'm really proud of that. Dustin's got a new coaching job.
You know, I started out, coaching for the Buckeyes.
There you go.
Working with, the Olympic champion in 2016, NCAA champs. Now, because I kind of honed my skills at that level, I'm the assistant youth wrestling coach here at Granville.
There it is.
So
just improving.
Yeah, you got to be prepared for your job,
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm definitely the rah-rah guy on the rec team. Like my head coach, Jared Cottrell, he's serious. He could definitely coach high school basketball right now. He has a list. He has an agenda. He said, when you ran practice when I was gone, it sounded like the kids had a lot of fun. So if you want to do some of that stuff, I've got a lot of things I got to accomplish. But you could get like 15, 20 if you need it.
He carves it out.
Oh, dude, it's legit. So I'm getting a legit coaching experience, and I'm enjoying it. AG ain't played basketball since 6th grade.
So cool.
It's so cool. My mom came and watched it. So it's like I'm getting that kind of like coaching literally just for fun.
Right.
It's been really enjoyable. So.
I mean, I actually found out something about myself and about coaching wrestling when we had our first tournament last week.
All right.
Number one, coaching them on the mat, it's a lot harder than it looks. All right. And maybe a month or two ago, Reese Humphrey and I had a podcast, and there was a little clip from it that kind of went lightweight viral and caused a big stir. We were talking about all these like youth wrestling dads and wrestling parents about how terrible they are at coaching their kids and how they're just out there, stand up, and Reese's quote was like, no, you stand up, bitch. Like, don't you understand how hard it is?
Yeah.
Like, and you're just yelling for the kid to stand up. And I always thought, I'll never be that guy. Well, guess what?
You're yelling stand up.
I yelled to stand up probably 30 times.
You're the person in the stands going, get him! Like at the football game, I hate that. Yeah.
You go to a UFC event, it's like, punch him!
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's hard not to instinctively yell those. I had to catch myself and say, no, you got to give them like kind of step by step how to stand up. And I would catch myself saying it. Then I would say, get your knees under you, back pressure. Kind of give them cues that help. But still, like in the moment, I was that guy. I was that coach. I was reverting to stand up.
Couple things.
Can't help.
A couple things I've found I'm really proud of already in my rec coaching career. Well, first off, like 4 of my kids that lift with us are on the team. That's part of why. Besides AG, they all look like men compared to everyone else.
You guys are beefy in there.
Yeah. Like we're men out there taking rebounds, bodying dudes, like imposing our will. 2. The way we push and practice, we had the star kid on the other team have to run outside and throw up because we were pushing the pace so good. So I love that. And I'm yelling, their gas tank is empty. Like I'm almost, it's like borderline I'm on the platform. And then just lastly, like challenging kids that I've never coached before. So there's a lot of kids know me. Some kids don't know me. And there's in rec basketball, not everybody can actually play basketball. They're there because they can't, quote unquote, probably play on the regular team. So you got kids that are unathletic, that are diving on the floor, but might not barely be able to shoot a jump shot. But they're giving it. So it's like interesting. I haven't been around, we'll say, a lot of athletes that probably really weren't that good at that sport, but I got a chance to coach, and they are trying to get better, and they are giving it their all. And so like it's I don't know, it's an interesting mix, but it's been really like valuable. And because I don't really coach youth sports at all, so this is like, I know they're older, but it's a mix. I don't know. I've just really enjoyed it so far, so it's pretty cool.
Do you think there's kind of something to the fact that you're probably for the first time ever coaching basketball, which was really your first love, right?
It was my first love, yeah, for sure. It's super enjoyable, and like I got a couple bigs, and I'm like challenging them, like these guys should never get a rebound off us. You understand that, right? Like I'm coming at some kids and they're kind of looking at me because I'm talking. It's like weight room Corey mixed with basketball Corey. So I don't know. It's been pretty interesting. So
I've always said that anybody who coaches collegiately or higher levels, they should be mandatory. You go down and coach either like in a rec or with youth, because you have to sharpen your skills again. Like things like standing up, you take for granted. Like, how do you stand up? Or one of my favorite was at a camp one time. I said, all right, we're going to sprint. We're going to sprint. We're going to run right. We're going to run to me, and that's going to be who the winner is. Now, I meant to me like the line.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, 10
they
kids
ran to you.
come bearing to me. So, like, you learn like the power of language, right? And to be descriptive in how you talk. I'm actually right now, I'm the second assistant. So I'm maybe lower than you. I'm the second assistant in rec basketball for 7th grade. So I'm not even the head guy. I'm not even the head assistant. I'm the assistant to the assistant. So, anyways, I can feel it.
This is amazing.
So if you look at the hierarchy of local coaching, Tread was at the top of the food chain here. Varsity
for
coach.
sure. Yeah. Well, semi-pro.
Yeah.
Semi-pro soccer. No, this is amazing, and I'll tell you what. It's like it's one of those things where I started thinking like, okay, do I want to be a head coach next year of it? Like, do I like it that much? And if I do, like, I really find myself more drawn to the kids that really are the biggest outliers that really can't even play basketball. They don't even know the game. But I think it's interesting that they signed up to get better. Like, don't understand what a pick and roll is. Like, it's hard for me to just even conceptualize that because I was such a basketball guy. And I wasn't even that good. I didn't play college basketball. But, like, so I don't know. I didn't realize that there was going to be that much teaching still available at these ages, but there has been. So it's been there. But I like that point, though. I think that's very, very true. And you're probably evident to you.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because you, like I said, you take things for granted. You're forced to reflect on like the nuts and bolts. Like, what is a pick? Let's do a pick and roll, and they go, "What are you talking about?"
And they're rolling the other way, and I'm like,
yeah. You have to like keep your patience and say, "Okay, slow down. Here's what we do. Elbow to." So no, I think it should be mandatory, required teaching for college coaches to go down and have to go back to that.
yeah, truly.
Yeah, well, so just, observing, I think one of the things that a lot of, you guys, the parallels you can pull from being a weightlifting coach or, a gym coach, whatever you want to call that, to coaching the sport is you're building the foundation, right? So, like, when you guys are in the gym, you talked about, like, seeing these kids that are outliers, and you pick them and you kind of build them up, and you can make them good weightlifters. Now you're noticing you can do it in basketball, and you can kind of translate that to wherever you want to go. You're picking out individual cues, and you're kind of like building these kids up and letting them realize their potential. Yeah. And I think that's like the common ground that everybody has, is you're trying to help these like younger kids that really probably don't see an outlet for them, and then you're giving them that foundation to kind of build off of.
Yeah, I almost the one kid in particular, I'm probably gonna chirp him a little bit about lifting weights. Like, dude, you should take up lifting weights. Like, there's a lot of guys that really weren't that good athletes that become really good weightlifters or build their confidence through the gym that couldn't shoot a basketball. And so I think that it's I don't know, that and working with the high school kids here at the gym is just things that I was missing because I was so internet based for so long. And then also that I think it's like more fulfilling than I realized. So it was like, but I always was like kind of nervous to coach local sports because I just always wasn't sure how mean I was allowed to be. And I know I'm not very organized. So like being a head plus doing all these businesses is a little tricky for me. So I think I'm a good, like, I've settled in as an assistant or an assistant to an assistant. It's probably my spot. And just being the raw mean guy when I need to be. So I don't know. It's been good.
You need to have those different roles on the coaching staff.
For sure.
And I think I agree. I don't know if I could ever be, if I stay involved with the wrestling program here, I don't think I could ever be a head coach at any of the levels because I can't be that immersed in it.
Yeah.
I can show up, give my all for practice. I can show up for the meets, help all the kids and stuff like that. But I can't really let it consume my brain outside of that because I got to worry about business.
Well, I think also because I've gotten so much coaching in here around weightlifting, it's funny because the way that I coach here, challenging guys to take weights, take things again, do whatever, it's like I'm doing that same thing on the floor. And I probably would have done that earlier, but I just know it's been morphed from here. Like, why is that guy beating you that spot? I was a defense. My defense is, Treadway knows, my defense is legit.
Lockdown.
Because I really didn't have that. I had a ton of offensive guys I played with. So it's like, I'm telling guys, beat him to the spot. That guy's not a better athlete than you. Like, why are you letting him? Like, I think that it's some of the stuff that's from here is interesting, that it's like so natural been there. So it's, it's been pretty cool.
I always thought, for youth athletes, and I don't know what the sweet spot to age is, but I think bang for your buck is training athleticism, speed, strength, power. Like, I think that's, I always say, like, and there's some value in hitting lessons and basketball lessons, whatever it may be. But if I had a limited amount of resources and I could spend X amount of money, it would be on trying to build a better athlete. And how do you do that? That's getting the strength foundation and everything else. So,
can we clip that? Because I got in an argument on Twitter the other day. That's one of my new things.
I saw this.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
All right.
I was a bystander.
Okay.
I saw
Is getting into arguments on Twitter with people that have no clue what the fuck they're talking about. And this guy was talking about how if the U.S. soccer team wants to get better, they need to be less athletic and more technical. And I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever
They're
heard
getting
in my
beat by
life.
better athletes.
You're getting beat by better athletes. They just so happen to be better
I don't
at
even know
soccer
shit about
also.
soccer, and I know that.
Exactly. and like, Coach, can you kind of like elaborate on what you mean by building better athletes? Because I think people think like in soccer, it's this weird thing where everyone's like, well, if our best athletes played soccer, we'd be the best country in the world. But that's not necessarily true, because Aaron Donald's a great athlete, but he wouldn't be very good at soccer because he's too big. But a lot of these people get it twisted that it's the technical ability over the athleticism. But if you're a good coach and you can make a kid a better athlete, they're probably going to get better at the sport.
yeah, I mean, I think eventually you get to a spot. Like, baseball is a really good example, because people will say, baseball is the one sport where you don't have to be uber athletic. I would disagree at the highest levels. I mean, Mike Trout could play free safety in the NFL, or like those guys are thoroughbreds, man.
Think
like,
Aaron Judge couldn't go to another
Aaron
sport?
Judge is, I mean, the shortstop for the Pirates right now, he's faster than Tyreek Hill. He's bigger than Aaron Judge, and like they kind of labeled these things. So, anyways, they're physical freaks, right? So, I just think for me, I don't know if I can answer this question directly, but becoming a better mover cleans up a lot of things technically, right? And eventually talent's going to meet talent, and athleticism is going to be the kind of the starting point, and then you kind of build a skill base off of that, right? Like, just being a freak athlete is not going to translate on the pitch or on the basketball court, for that matter, because it's always amazing to me, even at Denison here, small college basketball. If you watch warm-ups, so this is kind of yin and yang of this. If you watch warm-ups, I would say 80% of the guys can dunk. Like, it's crazy. Like, they're all above the rim now. Like, that dunking used to be a big thing when I was a kid. Now you watch the OCC, the good high school basketball league around here. There's dunks every night.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Okay, now, but when the ball goes in the air to start the game, there's a lot of guys who can't dunk that are on the floor, because you still need a skill set, right? So I'm not saying that skills aren't important, but you have, like, in order to play at the World Cup or Division I baseball or whatever, like, you have to have a level of athleticism, and I think that athleticism cleans up a lot of those technical things that are missing are usually related to strength and athleticism. So I don't know. That's kind of how I.
Yeah, I think you can speak to this big time, because all the youth kids have come through and got so much stronger. You're not teaching them a better double leg.
No, I'm just giving them a foundation to be able to execute that double leg.
That's right.
And just like you said, it cleans up a lot of things. It can also cover up for a lot of deficiencies too. And I already see it now, like with my son. Yeah, I mean, this is really only his second year of wrestling, but he looks so much more advanced than the other kids that are around the same level of actual experience, because he's a better athlete. Because he's
stronger.
He's been in the gym for 3 or 4 years or however long it's been. It's probably been longer than that now.
I feel like at the youth. I didn't mean to come. Sorry. I feel like the youth level, like strength and aggressiveness, like those two things. And now I don't know how. Like, sometimes like you may not have the aggressiveness, but how can you? It does help in here, right? Like, the strength does help the aggressiveness. Is that fair to say?
No, for sure. I mean, even just something as simple as like teaching a kid how to push a sled.
Right.
I remember kind of making this observation when I was watching a youth soccer game this year. I said, half of these kids don't understand how to sprint. Like, if you would just take them in the gym and show them how to push a sled, that they have to actually like dig in, extend their leg,
They don't
push
know
their
max
foot in
effort.
the ground. They don't know how to. So then when you tell them to sprint to the ball, they don't really understand how to do it.
Yes, sir.
So I think especially at the youth level, which obviously then carries over into high school and everything else, is that you got to start by building the athlete first. So like you might be great at wrestling moves, but if you're not strong and you're weak and you have no coordination, then I mean you're gonna have a hard time executing them.
It's going to catch up, right?
Yeah,
Like,
you're never gonna win those 50-50 positions at all.
Yeah,
so
we have a freshman who's just a really he's a super athlete and a really talented baseball player, but he's our best lifter as a he's by far. But I asked him because you're always curious like how it happened. He said like middle school, he said he's like I just would go with my dad and we just work on movement, like just the movement quality. And then this is just one young man's take, but I think it's worthwhile. He's like then it just became about just kind of adding weight on. Like once I learned how to move like properly, right? But and so even the college level, you see guys that they may be strong in some ways, like, but they don't have the movement quality down, and now like they're more injury prone, etc. But just from a young age, with him just moving weight and learning how to move his body, then he's like, oh, then you just stack on 10s, 25, and anyways, and he shot up. So I know it's not that simple, but I think that foundation allowed him to be really comfortable in any room right now because of the weights.
So that's why I like the GPP stuff so early, like sled drags, rope climbs, like things that are building that foundation for them to move better and be strong overall. So then when you add the actual movement patterns with a little bit of weight, they move well. And then as they mature, you add more.
So you're saying I missed one level in that story, like you would say before the movement.
That seems like what we've had good success with, and what I've seen Dustin do with his son, and we've done with my son, and like all these other. It's like that. The Russians, it was like the gymnastics before everything, right? The Russians would pick the kids that could jump the highest and could run the fastest naturally. Then they put them in gymnastics as a base or something like that, which is basically body weight movements, which is GPP.
Right.
And then they go, you're a wrestler, you're an Olympic weightlifter. It's basically the same type of thing in theory. So which is what we talked about with your son. Like that's the first steps. You got to build
some
that.
carries,
Yeah,
do some pushes,
carry, drag. Climb, push, pull, right, D? I mean, that's
like basic human movements and doing them loaded in some respect, So, any kid, I don't care if they're 5 years old and they've never, played a sport or anything before, they can hold onto a strap and drag a sled.
Right.
They can push.
It's farm work, basically.
Right.
I mean, that's where all the shit started at.
Right.
Part of where the Bulgarians started dragging sleds is because they were loggers. And they were
This is an amazing story.
They're
by the
used
way.
to dragging literally logs out of the woods backwards. So they would drag backwards, and then all those guys' squats were crazy strong. Louis told about these stories I read. It's like it was based around that community at that time that were weightlifters also were from logging. I mean, it just makes sense. And same with why is it you had a farm kid at your school, I guarantee, right?
Yeah.
So did I. That was like freaky strong in the gym, was bigger than everybody, and you're like, that dude just farm strong. What's that mean? He'd done GPP his whole life.
That's right.
Baled hay, dug post holes. It's the same shit.
So I think what the challenge is now, it's so funny to talk to almost across the board friends of mine who are doing better than their parents. Like right, so like they all struggle with the idea of like my kid's missing that resilience edge that I didn't that I just had naturally, and so then how do you create it? And I think the same thing's being true. Like with most kids aren't baling hay now, right? Or they're not on the wheelbarrow helping you. I mean, sometimes, but it's not like day to day, right? And so I guess what we're trying to do here is create some of that.
That's exactly
right?
what we're trying to create.
Yeah.
I don't even like doing chores. I don't like doing home, like work at the house. Like that's not my thing. So like, if you're my son,
he's an infamous anti-yard work guy.
I'm an anti-yard work guy. I just don't like it. So like if
but
like,
it's because you had to do so much.
I did a bunch of them as a kid, and so like for my life, I didn't want to keep that shit going, right? So I'd rather pay somebody to do it.
Right.
So it's like my kids aren't going to get that at my house because that's not like a normal thing for me. But they have to get it here. Yeah. So it's like that's why this environment and me like forcing and trying to figure out how I get a building close by was because I thought we needed this here.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
For
all of us, for our families.
Yeah,
yes. You know what I mean? It was like super important for the development of, because Dustin's family was at the gym. He lived closer to the other gym. My family was never really there. So like AG didn't really grow up in the gym, and now Will, and AG did the last couple years, but that was part of his development. And I would argue that I was like looking really like with intention because I knew that was so necessary. And then I believe when things line up the right way, sometimes there's some things that open for you. You know what I mean? So it's pretty interesting. Trevor, you look like you had something to say.
Well, the other part that we didn't really touch on was just like the longevity of being an athlete, because of being in the gym. Like Louis said, weak things break. And, you see all these athletes with injuries, everything, it's a lot of overuse injuries, things like that. And it's just because they're weak. And they don't have that exposure to the gym. They're going out, they're working on their footwork, they're working on all these things. You can't do that forever if you have no base to do it off of. You have to have some sort of foundation of athleticism in order to produce on the field or the court, whatever.
That's why I kind of quit dropping that I was going to be some like sports specific guy. If you're already good at your sport and you are, not very strong or need to work on it, I'm going to make you better. And if for some reason it looks like I'm going to make you worse, then we'll fix it. But that hasn't happened yet. I mean, I'm not going to go so specific because, Dustin does, I think, some really wrestling specific type stuff. But at the end of the day, if they just come here and do most of non-wrestling specifics, that they're going to get better too.
That's what I want to ask though. How much of it with, let's say like 15 and under, 14 and under, let's say 14 and under, is wrestling specific, or could be done by a baseball player?
Well, I'm going to say that everything I do with my wrestlers could be done by any athlete, and it's going to help them improve.
Right.
But I'd say there might be certain things we do that are very grip specific,
There you go.
very pulling specific, that are stuff for your neck that, yes, they will help you and carry over for any sport, but maybe they're not quite as necessary for a baseball player. Yep. I think where it probably gets a little bit more specific was once we get into like the preseason stuff, it's more the conditioning stuff.
Yeah.
So the conditioning stuff that I'm doing with my guys, that where wrestling is a very anaerobic based sport, but also too you have to have a very strong aerobic base. It's not going to be as important for baseball.
Right.
I mean, you have to be able to sprint to first base, and that's it. So I think that's probably where the biggest difference is. But from a strength standpoint, maybe some of the grip specific stuff, we do a lot of unilateral stuff, like split squats and weighted lunges versus a lot of back squat and stuff. So I think maybe there's more carryover there, but other than that, I mean, I don't think you would look at it and say, well, this is only for wrestlers.
Yeah, because as I'm listening, I mean, grip strength has become wildly
it's huge for every
powerful
sport.
in baseball. People, it helps with spin, it helps with all kinds of things, and it's a game played on one leg quite a bit. So like this, there's so many parallels, but I do think it's just a good strong athlete who moves well is a great place. And I think the other thing you mentioned about longevity, we're all obsessed as like youth sports and high school sports and college sports, but how about just being able to move well as you get older into your 20s and 30s?
Yeah.
And if you have a foundation and a way that you're not intimidated in a way. I think that's where most people get in trouble is they don't want to go in because they're intimidated by the place. But if you have a good working baseline of that, even if you get out of it for 6 months, you can come on back in. So anyways, I think that's so important.
Super important.
The adult athlete, I guess.
I think if you're an athlete, you're always an athlete.
Yeah.
If you give in to not being an athlete, that's kind of on you.
That's right.
And when you stop becoming an athlete, that's when shit starts to go bad.
Dude, that's when shit starts falling apart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But because you have to maintain like a certain level of GPP in order to just like continue to do what you do, right? No matter what you do, if you work a 9 to 5, if you're doing whatever, if you're working manual labor, you have to maintain a level of GPP just to sustain your life.
Well, and GPP is general physical preparedness, and that could mean everything from riding a bike to walking to sled dragging to wheelbarrow. Like, there's all these things that we have to create, I guess, stressors in our lives because our lives as a whole are way softer than they've ever been in the history of mankind.
Well, you think about up until I don't know what the time frame would be. Maybe it's 50 years, maybe 100 years, whatever. Human existence, you had to work on a daily basis to secure your food, to make sure you had, firewood for the fire, all these different things that we, take for granted. I remember, just recently I was at my grandma's house. She's 90, I always forget if she's 97 or 98. But, she was telling stories about when they first built that house that she lives in. And, they had to actually like boil water on the fire to come in, to take the bath. They didn't have, running water. They didn't have hot water. They didn't have indoor plumbing. So you think about how much of your day was spent just trying to get through these basic needs.
Yeah. Just
actually,
preparing to do basic items.
Yeah, just being able to take a bath.
Yeah.
They had to go get buckets of water out of the well, boil the well, on the stove or whatever, which was a fire that they lit from wood, just to be able to have enough, hot water to wash up or whatever. And, now it's at the click of a button. And it's been like that for a while. But my point is, like, so much of your life was spent just being able to stay alive. Mm-hmm. Now life is very easy. We have to replicate those things that's missing from our experience as humans.
Yeah.
Well, and I saw something the other day, and I think sports do this too, training in sports. Like, there's everyone has like probably like a base level amount of anxiousness or anxiety, right? And I think playing sports and lifting weights kind of flushes that out of your system. And I think that when you're not moving or you kind of give into that, kind of like, I don't need to do these things anymore, I think those things creep up on people maybe more than they realize. And I think they maybe can't handle situations on a regular basis maybe as fluently as they might have if they would have went for a run or dragged a sled or whatever. And I think that especially with our kids, I think that's at an all-time high because of social media and things like that. So I think these things are even more important. So even if your kid's unathletic and isn't very good at sports, as long as he likes them, or he or her should have them in them, or you should have some type of base movement thing going on, because I think that because, to Dustin's point, it was represented in everyday life for so many years of our existence, and now it doesn't have to be. And so I think that that's another problem potentially of what's happening, because I'm a high-strung person, obviously, right? I need what happens in the morning to be normal. It's just the truth. Just to get the competition, the aggressiveness, like the focus, all of that. I need all of that in the morning to just be Corey that can operate and not be a maniac. And I'm still kind of a maniac, but that is really necessary. And I think I realized that about myself probably right after I started lifting weights. And that, you know, then combined with sports, I was like, this is just me. And I think if I want to like be like a productive citizen and not get myself in trouble, I need these things in my life.
Well, it's, you know, it's
like a control.
You know, the I wouldn't say it's a buzzword, but you hear a lot about mindfulness now. You know, and mindfulness, you know, meditation, prayer, whatever. I used to think mindfulness was just that alone. My mindfulness is movement and working out of some capacity. So like my rhythm for creativity, when I'm at my best, and I'm not at my best right now, it's I write early and then I go move. And it's amazing what comes to me during that process of just, I don't know, it awakens my mind. And I do think there's something to that. And then my next layer to that would be good conversations with people. But if I can write and get some ideas on paper, move, I guess I'm trying to, the parallel between body and mind, I guess, is what really helps me. I
used to have three things that I used to try to do, is like write, record, and something else every day. And it's like you have those things that if you kind of can make those happen, like from a creative standpoint, but they all come after training.
That's right.
Or moving. I mean, it's just going to be the clearest. So I don't know. It's just something I thought of. One other thing I want to bring up, I'm speaking to the 6th grade class today. So I was putting together a presentation, which I'm excited about. Now it's Andon's class, and I think it's multiple 6th grade classes or whatever. And what I think I'm more nervous speaking to kids than adults, because you're not sure what they can conceptualize, what they really need. I struggle with the youth stuff, and especially because it's it's like a job thing. Hey, they're bringing in different parents and to explain their job. So I'm putting together my presentation this morning, and I'm trying to do I'm going to try to get them moving during it. I'm going to take a couple T-shirts maybe. If somebody hits some push-ups, I'll give them a T-shirt. But I got pictures of the coal mine. I got pictures of some of the athletes I worked with. I think it'll be cool. And I'm going to the biggest key of the whole thing, though, is trying to explain that I didn't like where my life was. I like to do this thing. I went after it. And my superpower is consistency, and try to wrap that in. Wow. And so that's what I'm working on. So it was this morning, it was real thought provoking, because I'm trying to be not over their head. Mm-hmm. But Andons came home from several of these and said hey, I learned this from Joe Curry's dad about real estate. And I learned this from Todd Londoff about, this. And I was like, all right, some of these kids are really listening.
Yeah.
So it's what can I do that will kind of ping them today? So I'm kind of pumped about that.
Can I coach them real quick?
Please. That's why I said
and I think you're on the right path, but I would say, anytime I speak to a group or connect, I try to think of the 3 things that I want them to take away from it.
Okay.
And so when I listen to you, it would be hardship, right?
Yep.
Courage to go after it, and then the third thing would be consistency.
Yeah, that's my 3 main points.
So anyway, I always start there, okay, when they leave this conversation, if they have whatever those 3 main things are, and then now how can I try to package it so they hit on those things? Because you're going to swing and miss with kids. You're going to say things, but if I can go back to those 3, then when they leave here, they should have some semblance of hardship, consistency, and courage.
I think they got a cool smart TV thing. So I got my slides, but it's I got 3 really good pictures of the coal mine. So
Yeah.
I can give them a very good depiction of like, this is what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I like to do. Here's how that worked out. But the only reason I found like a thing that has like a superpower fist that has like a comic book
Because-
thing, it's say, but this is why.
I'm sorry. I'm going to keep going here for a second.
Go ahead.
Because we had our end of the year or end of the semester meeting. And baseball is really funny because our college baseball, our first game is February 24th.
Oh, geez.
So, like, while we're kind of moving into the holidays right now, our kids, they're going away for 5 weeks. But when they come back, like, we're
You're jammed
Yeah, we're
quick.
making our money, right? So how they perform in the 5 weeks away from us is really, really important. So we talked about how do we win the next 5 weeks. That was kind of a conversation. How do we win the next 5 weeks? And so they're putting things up there. And I said, all right, fellas, how is this different than anybody else in the country? like we're gonna throw, we're gonna hit. Like everyone's saying the same things, but I don't even think it's wrong. What it comes down to is consistency,
Yeah.
right? Like it's if they go in and do the work, and really it's going to be a battle of who does the work consistently, who's going to be ready to play in February. It just I know that's not earth shattering. But I'm thinking like I'm looking at it going like this is average. Like this
They have
list up
training
here-
stuff that you send them with for 5 weeks?
we do. They go home with it, but I think a lot of that's the same.
Yeah.
We're information overload. Like you can now get online and find some of the best trainers but who's going to
Actually do it.
yeah, and how can we create take away obstacles and barriers so they go ahead and do those things. But
That sounds like the
consistency-
perfect time for a 30-day lunch program, don't
Yeah.
it, Treadway?
Do you get what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it's amazing how it's really simple what needs to be done, but most people won't do that.
I think that's going to be that's kind of the point I'm going to try to wrap right with that is that none of this stuff is really that extra special, but I kind of lay out like I set goals and I went to this thing. That accomplished, I set that set of goals. It's only like 15 slides. So I got like 20 minutes, and I'm going to try to make it fun. But it was like trying to keep it super basic, but really try to get those 3 points. So I said like, basically the passion, the hardship, the passion, the consistency, the win. That's it.
I know this is Captain Obvious, right? But it's just not like Alabama football or whoever, Ohio State. Like they're not doing anything that much differently than everybody else. It's
He
just
just has a different expectation there.
it's expectation and doing it really well all the time, right?
Yeah.
So it's just showing up, but it's also showing up at a really high level, right?
Yeah.
And going in and getting your stuff done. But anyways, it was a shout out to the consistency piece. Other thing I want to mention real quick was you guys see Mike Leach passed away.
Yeah.
And anyway, we think of Mike Leach. Anybody have anything that jumps to mind?
So one, he's like a absolute character, right?
Right.
But it's wrapped around like a beautiful football mind that has been ripped off or taken away to the NFL. Like he did it at programs that weren't really like historically that good.
Right.
And he went in and showcased that he could do it. What's interesting, this back to the workout piece. I thought he was like 75.
Yeah.
I thought he was older for sure.
He's
61?
Could not believe
61.
that.
So that also.
I thought he
goes-
was 61, like back when he was at like Texas Tech or whatever back in the day.
Yeah. That goes to show like if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not moving, you're gonna age fast. You're gonna have crazy inflammation. They already work crazy hours. Like that guy should have been coaching for another 10 or 15 years.
That's not the angle I was going to go with, but I appreciate you guys pointing that out.
Yeah.
Because especially for someone like me who's not overly skilled or talented, I feel like longevity is going to be my key.
Yeah.
Like I may not pop off until I'm 60. You know what I mean? Like or whatever. But guys who we probably get the best of Mike Leach, right? If he
That's what I was kind of
Yeah.
getting at. It was almost like it's impressive the body of work obviously, but I feel like there's more there, and because he loved what he did, and that's what you could see in every interview. He would say the wildest thing about aliens, and he was giving the one girl the wedding advice. I mean, he's just a real character.
Well, did you have a takeaway? Either a Mike Leach, just because I have something I want to share at the end, but
Yeah, so he's one of those guys that I think like a common person can look up to because his superpower was just empowering people and empowering young people to believe that they can do whatever they want as long as they work hard and just do the right thing. And you see that with a lot of his teams. Like you could probably say that they overachieved. They weren't supposed to be this good, but something weird happened and they got better results than what they should have based on the talent that they had. And I think it goes back to what we all try to do is just empower these young people and let them believe that they can accomplish anything if they just – what we talked about today, stay consistent, put in the work when nobody else is willing to, and just never quit working, never stop, trying to be great. And I think that was like his superpower.
Yeah. D, you got anything on?
Yeah, I mean, kind of my impression of Mike Leach, from watching his interviews and stuff, really it doesn't even speak to his coaching ability, was that he just always seemed someone's very comfortable in his own skin and was never trying to be anyone else. And I think that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do, just to accept who they are, embrace it, and not try to pretend to be someone else, especially if you're in the spotlight.
Yeah.
He wasn't trying to be Bill Belichick or trying to be like this perceived idea of how a coach should act. He was Mike Leach. So I think that's kind of the biggest takeaway for anyone, whether you're a coach or not, is like
his authenticity was at 100%.
Yes, authenticity is a superpower too.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
that you stole my shine.
Yeah.
That was my takeaway was just that his secret sauce, or however you want to say, superpower. And what do you say? Authenticity is a cheat code.
Yeah, it's a cheat code.
I think that's kind of what you see in Mike Leach. Like that was him. And I think when someone passes away, or when you reflect, I think it's also good to remind, like there was a lot of people who didn't like Mike Leach. Like, he was fired at Texas Tech for some crazy things, right? There's a guy that was going in the transfer portal right now that said some negative things too. So I think it's always important. Sometimes I know for me, it's good to know that you're not always going to be liked. We all know
You're
that.
You're not for everybody.
But I think Mike Leach, just being himself, attracted some really awesome people that he could empower. And what a cool story he is. Never played at a high level. And anyways, rest in peace to Mike Leach.
Yeah, what do you think about that? Is it hard to give a coach the respect if they've never really played the game?
The higher level athletes I've been around, and I mean this now. I think I can say this from a place of knowing people. They don't give a shit if you can make them better.
That's all. That's the main key.
That's the only. But high level athletes are they're wired to smell out bullshit. Like they're constantly looking for, I don't know, like what's like if their environment's off at all, they can feel that. But if you're adding value to them, if they think that makes them better or can make them more money or whatever, they're all in.
Well, and I don't know that you have to be a pro.
You don't have to be a
But
pro.
my thing is if you've never really played, because some guys have never really played the sport.
Bill Belichick. Well, he played lacrosse, but he wasn't. I mean, Bill O'Brien. Like that's one of my favorite stories was Urban Meyer said he was listening to Mike and Mike in the morning, and they had Bill O'Brien on there, and they said, okay, we said we got to ask you, like what's it like to coach Tom Brady? He's like, he's the best quarterback of all time. You never even played. Like how does that work? And he goes, if you go into a meeting with Tom Brady, you better be on. Like you better be on. You better know every little thing. He goes, because Tom Brady's gonna, if I'm not on in a meeting, then Tom Brady's gonna call me out, right?
Yeah.
And so Urban Meyer said he pulled the car over and went, holy shit, that's it. I got to go into every meeting ever with that kind of level of preparation because people are sensing it. They're gonna feel it out. So, yeah, I think as long as I really believe genuinely in my heart. Maybe there's a barrier at first going, you haven't done what I haven't done.
Yeah.
But if you're in the 0.01% of what you do, like they're 1%ers against 1%ers, right? So if I'm a 1%er strength coach and I've never played, but I can make you better as a football player, basketball player, whatever, I'm going to listen to you. But if you're off, if you're not doing your part in that 1%, they're going to smell that out and kick you out of the room. That's my take.
I think, there's going to be outliers out there. Obviously, there's examples of coaches that never played the sport that became really great at it. But I think you're never going to become great as a coach of a sport if you haven't done it, because it's going to be hard for you to identify with what the players are going through on a daily basis. So, yeah, there might be these examples of guys that never played football that became great football coaches. But in general, I think you're just going to have a tough time with it. I think even like, for example, you're doing strength training now with baseball players. You still played baseball.
Yeah, exactly.
You still understand the sport. You might not have played in the major leagues, but that doesn't matter.
No, but I understand the nuances enough to be around baseball at a high level.
For sure.
So I'm not going to look like a fucking poser.
I think honestly, I think it's less of a barrier than maybe, I don't know. That's my opinion, right?
Yeah.
I think it's less of a barrier than we think it is. Once again, if you have no idea of sports, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But if you're comfortable in your own skin, Mike Leach, right? Like if you're comfortable in your own skin, you have a high knowledge base, I think you got a shot. Like I think that, but once again, but if you don't know baseball,
So
ahead.
Mike Leach never played football?
I don't know that. I can't say that.
Yeah,
I can't say.
Yeah, I
that.
mean, I think saying someone never played versus someone never played an elite level is two different things.
Yeah,
you know?
but never. I guess never played. That's. I mean, where does that? I mean,
Yeah.
if I played pickup football, does that count? I
Yeah.
mean, look, there's a lot of women right now that are coaching in the NFL and things like that,
That's true.
and they're bringing value, right? So that used to be when I first started teaching a sports leadership class in 2013, so about a decade ago. I said, will there ever be a woman coach in the NFL? And the men were like, no way, not a chance. They never played. They don't know what it's like. Well, little by little, you're starting to see it. So, yeah, I don't. Like I said, I'm not saying it's much easier. It's much easier if you have played the sport. I think that's fair. But I think if you can be vulnerable, like I never played pro baseball, and I
Yeah.
work with some pros, but I don't try to be them though. I don't say I know what it's like to play 162 games.
True.
I don't. So yeah, I know how to play. I know baseball, but I don't know baseball like they know baseball. You know. So, anyways, it's much easier if you played. But I think as long as you can add value to them, and whatever that is, I think you got a shot. But I appreciate the counterpunch.
I love it. Anything else? Got it? D?
Nah, that's
We
it,
good?
man.
I think it was just good to be back on the mics.
It is. Got to get our reps back, baby.
Yeah, hey, make sure you guys share with your friends. Shout out to all the coaches that have been showing us love. We appreciate it. We're going to be back on schedule now every couple weeks, and brought to you by MaxEverMuscle.com and Sam Adams. I'm your boy, Corey G. Mike Deegan, Tyler Treadway, Coach Myers. We're out.